Willy Lam is former China editor of the South China Morning Post and author of 5 books on China. He's Professor of China Studies at Akita International University in Japan and at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Willy Lam, welcome to the program. The legacy of Jiang Zemin is well defined, but how will history view Hu Jintao's period as President of China?
Well, Hu Jintao, I think, will go down in history as a very strong foreign policy president. So during his tenure, no doubt China's place in the world has been a lot more secure. China's international prestige as well as power projection, particularly China's economic and military power, has expanded tremendously. So China has emerged as a kind of a quasi-superpower just next to the U.S. However, domestically, Hu Jintao has not done that well, even though the Chinese economy has been expanding by about 10% every year. The polarization between rich and poor, huge gaps between the city and the countryside, and also big discrepancies in the standard of living between eastern China and the much poorer hinterland. These are some of the questions which Hu Jintao has not been able to tackle satisfactorily.
What about Premier Wen Jiabao, who's often portrayed as the kinder, gentler face of the Chinese administration? Is that really true or mere public relations?
Well, certainly, Prime Minister Wen Jiabao is the most liberal member of the Politburo. However, he belongs to a much attenuated, much weaker liberal faction within the Chinese Communist Party. So very often, he's just a minority of one within the Politburo. And for this reason, in spite of the fact that Premier Wen has been talking about political reform, more exchange with the people, more transparency in government, the possibilities of his ideals being realized are close to zero. So that's why many intellectuals have begun to doubt whether Premier Wen is indeed sincere in making all these pledges.
And what about the new leadership team of Xi Jinping and Li Keqiang? Are they up to the task of dealing with the problems left behind by Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao?
They were chosen as successors to the current leadership precisely because they are trustworthy, conservative, and able to keep the ship of state on an even keel. They were not chosen for the reformist credentials, for their visions for a different China. So pretty much along the lines of what President Hu Jintao has been doing, I think the new leadership under President Xi Jinping and Premier Li Keqiang will put all priority on stability. There will be very little in the way of political reform. No movement on the front of elections or universal suffrage. However, on the foreign policy front, I think they will continue with Hu Jintao's policy of more ambitious projection of Chinese power, both hard and soft power. So with the construction of at least 2 or 3 aircraft carriers in the coming decade, I think perhaps Chinese military and economic as well as security policy will be more aggressive. There might possibly be heightened contention and competition, particularly with countries which have territorial disputes with China, and these include Japan, the Philippines, Vietnam, and so forth. It's also likely that contention between China and the U.S. in the Asia-Pacific theater might be aggravated because of this enhanced power projection by the new leadership.
The new leadership team, what's their power base? How strong are their links to the People's Liberation Army, for example?
Well, particularly for the incoming new party General Secretary and President Xi Jinping, he has very strong ties to the leadership. So he has very strong ties to the People's Liberation Army leadership. This is because Xi Jinping is a so-called princeling. That means he's the son of a party elder. His father used to be vice premier. And in the PLA, we have witnessed in the past 2 decades large-scale promotion also of princelings. sons of former generals. So that's why Xi Jinping has a very strong network of cronies and close supporters within the PLA.
Hu Jintao will remain as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces after he steps down as General Secretary and President. Is that for reasons of continuity, or does he just want to cling on to some power?
This will ensure continuity of policy, and also because, after all, Hu Jintao has been in the Politburo Standing Committee, which is China's highest governing council, for 19 years, since 1992. So he's a man of experience. However, Hu Jintao's connections with the top brass, with the senior generals in the PLA, is actually not so strong as the incoming President Xi Jinping. So it's quite likely that Xi Jinping, with the help of the senior generals, might force President Hu to get out of the Central Military Commission, maybe just 1 or 2 years after he retires from the Politburo. So it will be very much Xi Jinping running the show for China's foreign and as well as military policy.
Willy Lam, thank you very much.